You are listening to Keith Price's Curtain Call. Because you know I have to mark. Mm-hmm. So here we are at the Classic Stage. This Classic Stage Company's new production that they're going to be doing of Merchant of Venice.
That's right.
And I'm sitting here now with we're old friends. We're old friends.
Yeah.
We go back to the days of Fiddler on the Roof.
That's right.
That's where we first met.
I know.
And
almost 10 years ago.
Is it 10 years?
Next year, yeah. 2015.
And then one of the last times I ran into you was when I was working for Today Ticks, hawking tickets.
Yes.
And you were walking down the street, and the magazine that I had
was
had
me.
with you
that
in the
was
picture.
Crazy.
So I was like, I'm supposed to meet her. So, and now here we are again.
Here we are, old friends. We go
having
way back.
a moment.
Right.
Y'all, Alexandra Silber is here, y'all. Listen, girl, this is the thing about you that I did not realize until I decided. Because, you know, when we met, I had like 2 minutes to get to know you.
Yeah.
And then we've, of course, now been this way for the last 10 years.
Right.
But what's so hilarious is when I started doing research, y'all, this woman.
Good?
Yes. Girl.
I thought you were going to be like, this woman
Forget about it.
committed crimes.
No. First of all, I didn't realize how extensive your theatrical training and history and work has been. First, West End, Scottish. You went to the Scottish repertoire?
I did. I went to the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland in Glasgow. Yeah.
And we should tell my friend Maciel about this one, right? So, yes. So you did this. You had work in California. You were doing a lot of stuff in San Francisco with the Rep Theater there.
Yeah.
You were doing all... Okay. So doing Shakespeare should be nothing for you, right?
Yeah, it is my training, actually. Royal Conservatoire was a predominantly classical training. I didn't train in musical theater. I was just sang privately. And so this really is going back to my roots. And, you know, it's... I love poetry. I love the written word. One of the cool things about Shakespeare, too, is he sort of lives in three camps, right? There's like the greatest English poet.
Right.
There's the sort of literature world. And then there's the performed and acted world. Right. And I appreciate all three of those. So it's really exciting to be able to dive into it and do it here in New York.
Well, you're doing it here in New York, and you're doing Merchant of Venice, and you're playing Portia.
I am.
Now, I have to. I'm going to tell you something. It's just between you and me.
Okay,
and
don't
whoever.
tell anybody.
Listen, I didn't do Merchant or read Merchant of Venice when I was in high school, so I totally cliff noted it.
Yeah. She's a problematic play.
Yes, she is. But Portia is a cute role.
She's cute. Yeah.
And going against the grain, you're doing yourself basically going to be doing drag in this thing, aren't you?
I know. It's kind of great. And, you know, what's so interesting is that in a play that, like, centers itself on a big Jewish theme and anti-Semitic theme, I'm making a break from my usual fare, and I am not the oppressed Jew in this one. I am the oppressor of the Jew. So it's nice to, you know, I know it's important to have a brand, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you gotta...
Because I just remember, because one of the things you did in the West End, Indecent.
Yes, it was Indecent, exactly.
And that was powerful just on its own.
Incredible piece, yeah, incredible
And Paula
piece.
Vogel, how much do we love her? Hello.
With my whole heart.
She's amazing.
She's incredible.
Paula Vogel, the playwright, y'all. Forget
Yes.
about Pulitzer Prize winning playwright.
And the kindest person.
Isn't
She's
she?
a good lady.
She's a good lady. I love calling her just Miss Paula. That's when I talk to her, Miss Paula.
Miss Paula.
But yes, so you're getting to do this wonderful role.
Yeah.
I always wonder though, when it comes to doing Shakespeare, and when we take it out of the context of what most people think of it as, like you're modernizing it.
Yeah.
We just got to see a little bit of clip of what y'all are going to be doing with it, and it's going to have like a whole different kind of like reality TV showy kind of energy.
Yeah, it's wacky. It feels like SNL or like one of the late night TV shows with sketches. Yeah, I think a couple of really interesting things. So the play was written somewhere around 1594, and it was inspired by Christopher Marlowe's Jew of Malta, which is much more overtly hate-focused, right? And just to kind of give a little bit of context to the idea of Jew hate and anti-Semitism as a term,
Right.
that term wasn't even coined until 1879 in Germany.
So that's 200 and change years.
Yeah, so it was, to sort of like, is the play anti-Semitic? It's a sort of complex question, if you will, because it's like, does it kind of hold up to this political movement that came out of Germany at the end of the 19th century?
But again, I feel like when you get like the historical context, it's kind of like I don't think racism had a name until it became
Exactly
something.
that. No,
so
exactly
like,
that.
But it evidently was probably very prevalent at the time.
Totally. And,
With the shettles and all that stuff.
well, exactly. And naming racism in terms of people of color also was coming out of the 16th century. So
Right.
these were all like newish ideas. So at the time that it was written, it was really seen as a highly raucous comedy that was deeply focused on completely lambasting different cultural and national groups.
Right.
The focus of which in this particular play was tropes about Jews and Judaism. And of course, over the course of time and over the course of the centuries, we start to see these stories through the lenses of history. And that's something I explored in Fiddler, for example.
Right.
Just as an example to compare and contrast, so many people see Fiddler through the lens of secular Jews writing the musical.
Right.
And post-Holocaust,
Right. That's right.
But of course, those Jews in that story didn't know about any of that. They were
Right.
just living their lives innocently. So one of the things that has been interesting is like trying to put ourselves in a modern version mindset of what the people originally doing the play would be doing.
Yeah.
And I think on a serious note, one of the things that emerges is Portia in the play itself is also an oppressed person in this world.
Yep.
She is a woman.
Yeah.
And she's completely imprisoned by her deceased father's will.
Right.
Basically, he says you can't have your fortune and you can't have your freedom unless exactly. And so you marry somebody that answers a very specific riddle, basically.
Yeah.
So she's a prisoner in a gilded cage. And what I think is really interesting and very rewarding to play, especially in this era of black and white thinking and, good versus evil and very little nuance.
Right.
It's really, really exciting to sort of play the ugly and go, well, good people do evil things, and oppressed people sometimes warp and gain their sense of vengeance and power and control over their own agency in lives by oppressing other oppressed people.
That's it.
Which is exactly what happens in this play.
Wow.
And, we're picking that apart. It's not necessarily going to play out the way it would in the text itself, but I think it's worth coming to see. And that's like my other point. I think a lot of people, it's funny, I'll tell people, I'm doing The Merchant of Venice, it's really da-da-da, and there'll be this like gasp,
Like,
I thought we canceled that play.
it's almost I feel like Othello too. I don't know why we're doing that one too, but that's coming back.
Both in New York this season.
Shakespeare on the move.
Exactly. You know what? As a little aside, the woman I played opposite in Indecent in the West End, who played Rivka Molly Osborne, will be playing Desdemona in that Othello. So we're both going to be doing Shakespeare. But I'll say this: the question of like, should we cancel The Merchant of Venice? I think I very much want everybody to have an open mind and really come in with the notion that the very purpose of art is to challenge and expand and reflect our own beliefs, biases, sense of the world. If we simply move forward with pure cancellation, we don't get to hold these works of art up to any kind of intellectual or contemporary emotional rigor. And I think that's the only people that lose out from that are us as a society.
Well, and also too, like when you talk about what people are canceling, one of the reasons why I feel like things like this you know, as much as I feel like, you know, Desdemona and stuff like that, but one of the things about that is that it is a conversation that even in today's society we're still having, and I find like the theater is like one of the few places that you can actually have it all out there and then be able to pull it apart and look and see what you can change, what you can fix, and what you can do.
We're given the gift of storytelling.
Exactly.
You know, our brains deal with storytelling in a very different way than we do with simply receiving facts and information. And I think another thing, you know, going back to Desdemona, to Othello, and to Merchant of Venice, these aren't, and you know, I'll list another one people have a gut reaction to, which is Carousel. These are not social problems that we've solved, right? You know, by not performing Carousel, domestic violence does not end. By not performing Merchant of Venice, anti-Semitism and hatred doesn't end. By not performing Othello, we don't just, you know, table the conversation about people in black bodies. It is something that persists, and art is an opportunity to look at the humanity inside those questions, and I'm here to support that.
Okay. Alexandra Silber, honey, come see her in The Merchant of Venice. When do we start?
November 22nd.
November 22nd, here at the Classic Stage Company's fabulous black box space that I love coming to. And you know, I'm a...
You say
I said it. I said the F word. I said the F word. But I love you so much. Thank you so much, honey. Oh, good luck with this.